Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Whistlethrowers. It's a great way to interact with our show. Our DMs are always open for questions, topic discussions, and more. You will be able to find our new episodes and other announcements there.
The Lions absolutely choked.
Thanks for tuning back into the Whistlethrowers podcast. It's just me and Aiden today. We got the championship games under wraps, and we know the Super Bowl. I'm very disappointed. I don't know about you.
I mean, obviously I was rooting for Ravens and Lions, but it's two really good teams playing against each other. That's all you can really ask for a Super Bowl when the teams that you really, really want aren't going to be in it.
I mean, I guess so. It just so happens to be my two least favorite teams in the league.
Two least? Really?
Yeah.
Explain to the listeners, because I saw you say this. Explain to the listeners why you hate the Niners, or dislike the Niners more than the Cowboys.
Oh, well, they have a vendetta against us, and guess what? They could actually beat us in the playoffs, and they actually are threatening in the playoffs, unlike the Cowboys.
Here's the thing. So I will give you this. When I was growing up, and obviously live in Philadelphia, big Eagles fan, my least favorite team was the New York Giants and not the Cowboys. And no one from my parents' generation could understand why.
Okay, they were threatening back then, though. I understand that.
Yeah. So the Giants had won 2 Super Bowls in 4 years, and the Cowboys, I mean, they won the division in 2009, and that was really it. So I get that. However, the Cowboys are still a playoff team. And yes, there's certain 49ers players that definitely took shots at the Eagles. But the Eagles also did beat them. So for me, it's like, I'm willing to give it to you guys. You know what I mean?
All right. I mean, I understand that. I'm now rooting for them because I can't.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I am now rooting for them. But, oh man, what the world has come to is sickening. All right, so we can get into this game. I don't know why this game was so early. First off, that's my first complaint. Like, I didn't even get off at work. I missed, like, the whole first quarter. Yeah, they definitely should have started 1 at 5 and then 1 at 8. So I'm going to start off with that. And then moving into the game, I didn't understand the Ravens' approach here. I don't know about you, but it just seemed like they... I don't know, like, do you think that they were, like, extra chippy because of what happened with Justin Tucker pregame? Or do you think that's just how they came out?
So I think what happened was John Harbaugh got them super motivated, wanted them to play Ravens-style defense, which for anyone that knows the history of the Ravens, they're a smash-mouth football team.
Yeah.
They haven't since they got Lamar. They were that way in 2012 when they had Ray Lewis, Ed Reed. Like, that's how they were in 2000 when they won the Super Bowl as well. They've never been a finesse team. What happened is that they have really, really young guys who had never played in a game to this extent. So you're asking a bunch of guys who are ready for the moment, but they've never been in a moment like this, to then build up all your energy and let it out on the field. Well, the moment that they went down, they were too overhyped and let out all that anger after plays were done.
Yeah.
And that's where they started to fall into a hole. And I think the issue is that Harbaugh didn't want to have them tone back, because then when you're asking guys that are that hyped to bring it back, you're going to start to lose any momentum you have. So he put his team, I think, at the beginning in a really tough hole. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't have motivated them. I just think that they came out with a little bit too much excitement. And the moment they started to go down, the Chiefs started to grind out this win, they weren't ready for it. And I also think that the Chiefs came out really physical as well. And the Ravens were not ready for that, because the Chiefs under Andy Reid have not been a physical football team.
No.
This year is different. This year is very, very different from past Chiefs teams. And I think the Ravens weren't expecting them to come out and hit them and punch them in the mouth like that. And the Ravens haven't been punched in the mouth this year by good teams.
Yeah.
So for it to happen, I think there's just a lot of factors that went into this game that worked against the Ravens early on, and they just were never able to come back from being down.
I do agree with that. I didn't expect the Chiefs to, like, be as cohesive as they were as, like, a total unit. But I just think it, like you said, it was a bunch of young guys. Like, there was so many mistakes, and I'm not singling out Zay Flowers. He was not alone. Roquan Smith, many members on the defense. It is really tough when you have a culture of being, like, a smash mouth defense and, like, you get penalized for being a aggressive defense in the NFL now. So you got to adapt to that kind of. But yeah, I just think they had too much fire and they kind of wanted to, I don't know, avenge the world, and like they got penalized for it.
Yeah, I mean, the Zay Flowers thing, people were trying to say that Kelsey, I guess, was celebrating after plays too. Here's the difference. I didn't see a single sequence of Kelsey shoving down a defender, standing up over the defender, and then also throwing the football at the defender.
Yeah, okay.
When you do all three of those things in one sequence, you're going to get penalized.
You know, I am in agreement, and I just think everyone in the NFL should take notes. If Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are doing something that you think is suspect, don't do it, because you won't get the same treatment.
Yeah, and I mean, again, they're smarter about it.
Yeah.
See, Travis Kelce is a, 13-year, 14-year veteran? No, 13 or 12, however many years he's been playing. He can do that stuff and get away with it because he knows his limits within the rules. Zay Flowers is a rookie, right? So he had way too much passion after that play and went way overboard to an extent where you cannot see that happen and not penalize him.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. I thought everything was all in good fun until he like threw the ball down at him. Like I thought if he just pushed him down, that would have been fine. But the fact that you have to throw the ball down and like stand right in his face.
He did 3 different things on one play and made it blatantly obvious that he was taunting him.
Yeah. Now I gotta ask you, the Roquan Smith penalty at the end of the game, do you think they told him to jump off side so they could start at 1st and 10?
So even before Romo said anything, I started thinking that that had to be planned.
Yeah.
Just the way that he ran up. Now, again, I don't know why he decided to lean with his helmet into the offensive guard. Like, if you're being told to commit a penalty, you don't have to go all the way into it, right? In the NBA, when you're asked to get a foul to get the guy to the free throw line when you're only down by 2 with a couple of seconds left, you're not asked to slam the guy onto the court.
No.
There's a difference between these levels of penalties. And I just don't know what the thinking was of Roquan. I want to know if it was a penalty, if it was intentionally going to be a penalty, like the Ravens called it that way. And I don't think we'll ever get the answer to that, at least not for a while. But I have to think that was a design play call with the way that he ran up before the ball was even close to being snapped.
Yeah. And I guess last question on this front, are you disappointed in the way Lamar played? Do you think he shrunk in big moments, and do you think this is kind of his narrative sticking forward?
I mean, it's going to be his narrative, and it's really unfortunate because I don't think it was his fault. I really don't understand why the Ravens didn't try running the football more. When you look at it, Lamar had 8 carries for 54 yards. Gus Edwards only had 3 carries for 20 yards, so that's a 6.7 clip.
Yeah.
And then Hill only had 3 carries for 3 yards. So I understand that you're down, but you're only down 17-7 at the deepest point. And for most of the game, you were only down – you were down 17-7 at half. But in that third quarter, you could have run the football more. Your defense was making stops at that point. There's no reason to completely go run away from the run game. And I will say that Zay Flowers – look, we can say whatever we want about the taunting penalty. At the end of the day, they still got a huge play. They were still at the 25-yard line with more than enough time left.
Yeah, they should have ran it down there.
They should have run it there. But at the same point, Flowers needs to hold on to the football.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, that's completely inexcusable to be in that situation, totally give up to go for the touchdown when you know what you need in that series is a touchdown. You don't need to get on that one play. You already have the first down.
Yeah, no, you had the first down. You didn't need to extend into 3 defenders and
and I get you want to make up for the play that you have, but at the same point, the way you make up for it is by converting the first down and letting your team score a touchdown. You don't need to put the entire game on your back. And the fact that he hurt his hand afterwards shows me that he lost complete control after that taunting penalty.
Yeah.
He mentally shut down. I think the Ravens never really recovered from that.
No. But I think from a growth standpoint, that may have been the best lesson he could have learned in his rookie season.
Absolutely. And see, here's the thing. That's why I really don't think the Ravens are going away. They have a lot of really young guys.
Yeah.
And the way that Lamar's contract is structured, yes, it's still pretty big, but it's not big enough where you're going to have to lose everyone. And the fact that they've drafted so well means that they will stick around. The Chiefs, they'll be fine, but you have to remember, Andy Reid's already 63. So if they win the Super Bowl this year, who knows how much longer he's going to want to have the motivation to coach.
Yeah.
Kelsey's 34 and a really physical tight end. Those guys, look, he's been absolutely unbelievable, but even he started to get some injuries this year.
Mm-hmm.
So you wonder how much longer he can play. And then the Chiefs, they have a really good defense right now, but Chris Jones is older. They have him only on a one-year contract, and that was not even like a contract. That was because they just needed to sign him for the 1 year.
Yeah.
And the rest of their offense hasn't really been that good.
Mm-mm.
So if the Ravens can keep it going for a little bit, they'll definitely pass the Bills. I think eventually they could pass the Chiefs. Now, obviously, you still have Patrick Mahomes, so that's someone you're always going to have to worry about.
Yeah, I
But
think
I think the Ravens have something really good going right now.
Oh, they do. And if Andy Reid were to retire, I think it would be different than like when Brady and Belichick separated, because you saw that like Brady was kind of the deciding factor in their success more than Belichick was. But I don't think Mahomes will be able to like recover as easily as Tom did from his separation from the coach, just because like how I thought that team was bad like first 8 weeks of the season, and I think most of their pulling it together was because of Andy Reid.
It was because of Andy Reid, and also Steve Spagnuolo did an amazing job with that defense.
Oh yeah,
Like I said, this Chiefs team did not have the offensive power that they've had in the past, but their defense really stepped up, and they stepped up for where the offense just needed to get a little bit going in the playoffs, which is what happened. You knew that Travis Kelce wasn't going to be as bad as he was in the regular season. You knew Patrick Mahomes was going to start stepping up a little bit more. And once the offense played even a smidge better than they had in the regular season, they played a lot better in the playoffs than they did in the regular season, in my opinion, even though they haven't scored that many points. You knew that with the way the defense was playing, it was going to be really tough to beat them.
Yeah. And I guess last second before we go into the Lions and 49ers, what did you think about pregame Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce to Justin Tucker's stuff?
I mean, look, this stuff happens all the time. Most people don't know this story, but before a playoff game between the Eagles and Bears, Jim Miller, who was the Bears quarterback, and a couple other guys were messing up. I forget who was stretching for the Eagles, but there was a guy stretching for the Eagles, and they started running routes in between these guys stretching. So they're like, all right, we're going to mess you up. And Jim Miller threw an interception, and while the interception was being returned, Hugh Douglas absolutely obliterated Jim Miller and ended his career. So this stuff happens in playoff. That's just one instant. This happens in playoff games all the time.
Yeah.
You're going to mess with the other team's best players.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just have to be ready for it. I didn't read too much into it. I thought that was honestly really good maturity by the Chiefs, knowing that they're in a playoff game, that they could intimidate the Ravens' better players, even though you're trying to mess with the guy who's probably the best kicker in NFL history. So it's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
But it's just a way. And the other thing I think it did, too, was like we say, going back to our first point, it motivated the Ravens to a point where they were so angry that they couldn't control that anger.
Mm-hmm.
Because you knew that they already wanted to hit Mahomes. Now they see their kickers being intimidated. All right, we're going to go after you even more. And I think the Chiefs knew if they could get a lead on the Ravens, that at that point there was going to be times where the Ravens were going to lose their cool, which is absolutely what happened. So I think it was just veterans who had been in the playoffs before knowing how to intimidate a team with a little bit less playoff experience.
Gotcha. I just have bias because I think they're both insufferable. But okay, let's move forward. Lions, Niners. I guess my first question is, do you think this is more of like, are you putting more emphasis on the Lions choke this game or the 49ers ran away with the second half?
So the Lions absolutely choked.
Yeah.
And at first, here's where I'm torn with the Lions. I have never been a fan of Dan Campbell going for it every single time. Mm-hmm. I said that when they lost to the Cowboys. I'll say it now. They should have tried kicking field goals. I understand you don't have one of the better kickers in the league. I don't care. If the kicker misses, it's more on them. It's not on the play calling.
Yeah.
Like at a certain point, you just have to trust your guys to make the plays, which I get you want to do on fourth down, but points matter in the playoffs.
They should invest in a kicker, though, because his numbers from deep are atrocious.
Right,
I see why he considers it. However,
yeah.
you need to put some trust into him and get those averages up.
Now, on the other hand, Josh Reynolds needs to make those 2 catches.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But what I also don't understand is why Reynolds is being targeted. My only guess is they thought that he was going to be open enough, but I would have rather gone for Jameson Williams running those routes.
Oh, yeah.
And because Amon-Ra would have been covered. Laporta was still injured, and even though he played really, really well in this game, he didn't get the same separation that he had in the regular season.
No.
I would line up Reynolds as your 2, Williams as your 3, and have him try to get open. And if you have to go to Reynolds, so be it. But I feel like the way those plays were designed was for Reynolds to get open, and that's just not the guy to be trusting in these situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they steered away from Amon-Ra in the second half a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. I think he should have been more of a vocal point. Do you think that Dan Campbell's going to have like a more tame coaching philosophy moving forward? Because
yeah.
You know,
go. You finish your point.
No, go.
Okay. I do think he'll tone it down a little bit, but look, like everyone said, this is what got the Lions here, was him being aggressive, the team being aggressive.
Yeah.
You don't want to completely change your philosophy and try tinkering with the system. I think the Bears' biggest mistake after Nagy missed his field goal, Parkey missed the field goal for the Bears against the Eagles, was Matt Nagy completely focused all of his attention on kickers and not his attention on the offense or defense. I didn't really try fixing anything in the offseason. He was so hyper-focused on one thing. You don't want to get hyper-focused on, I could have done this, I could have done that, because then you're stuck in that moment.
Yeah.
If the Lions want to move on, they need to consider what went wrong this game. They couldn't stop the Niners in the second half. Their defense in the back end of the season were letting up way too many yards. And even though they did win really, really good playoff games, they let up way too many yards against the Rams. The Buccaneers, if they had gotten off to a somewhat better start in the first half, could have tied the game the same way that the Niners did and passed them. They just got off to a way worse start than the Niners did. And like Campbell said, you knew the Niners were going to go on a run eventually. So you had to be prepared for it. And I thought the Lions were prepared. Look, they didn't completely stop scoring. Yes, they only scored 7 points in the second half, but it's not like that they completely disappeared the way the Ravens did. So I think that there was some really good things I saw in this game, and I think you just expand on those good things and try to fix the bad things, but don't completely change your system. And knowing Dan Campbell's confidence in himself and in the Lions, I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. I do think they will look another way at kicker. I think you got to. And I think if they have like a steady guy, he doesn't need to be like Justin Tucker or even Jake Elliott. If he's like someone who's reliable, like I don't think you will be making those decisions much next season.
Yeah.
So they did choke, and it wasn't just on the play calling at all. I think Jared Goff kind of just disappeared in the second half too, besides the last real drive that they had going on offense. But I think this is just a testament to, like, you can never take your foot off the gas against the Niners.
Yeah.
Like, they are legit.
Yeah. So, just quickly on Bagley, because I'm just looking at the stats. He wasn't, like, he still had some range. He didn't make a 54-yard field goal this year in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just think that Campbell lost a little bit of trust, but I don't really know completely why. But, yeah, the Niners, like you were just saying, amazing team. They have everything going for them right now. One thing that I saw, and Greg Olson pointed this out, and I thought it was really interesting, McCaffrey didn't get off to a quick start.
No.
But they just kept running him because they knew eventually he'd get that big break, which is what Olson said. And eventually he did get a really nice, I think it was like a 25-yard run that got them to the 3-yard line and set up that touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a running back like that, that's a really scary offense.
Oh, yeah.
Just forgetting the wide receivers that you have. When you have a running back that you can be okay getting stopped for 3-4 yards and know that even in the fourth quarter, after he's had 15 to 17 carries, that he'll break the big one, That's a really good position to be in. And again, that's not even mentioning the fact that you got Debo, Kittle, Ayuk. Like, their team's just unbelievable.
Oh yeah, you really stress out like their defensive line, especially with having Trent Williams there as a plus and just like constantly running it with that good of a running back. Like they're gonna give in.
Yep. Yep.
I don't really have many more points with this game. I just feel bad for Lions fans everywhere.
Yeah, I do too. And I mean, you're so close to finally getting to the Super Bowl. You had a great playoff run, 2 great wins at home, and they had the lead. And I think there was probably a lot of Lions fans that thought that you'd cruise through the second half, and it didn't happen. But this just shows why the 49ers have been so good in the last half a decade, and even a little bit longer than that, is that when you have an offense that's built the way that they are with the playmakers they have, and now they have a quarterback in Purdy who I trust so much more than I ever trusted Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh yeah,
and clearly Shanahan does too. I mean, Garoppolo in the 2019 NFC Championship threw 8 passes, I think it was. Purdy threw 31 times. So clearly Shanahan likes Mr. Irrelevant more than the pretty boy from New England who was supposed to save the franchise.
8 passes.
I think it was something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the Purdy is just the type of quarterback you need in the system. And I get that he doesn't have the strongest arm. He doesn't have the most amazing ability. Like, he's just not a big quarterback. Like, he's not going to be Joe Montana sitting back there. But as we saw, he can run the ball a little bit.
Yeah, he showed it. He definitely showed it.
His vision, I think, is really, really good. And he trusts himself. There's a couple of passes that he made that everyone's saying, oh, you're not supposed to throw across your body on the run. Well, he trusts himself enough to do that.
Yeah.
And it worked out a couple of times. I'm not saying it's going to work every time, but if he didn't have any confidence in himself, he's not making those plays. Mm-hmm. So he's built for these moments. And I don't know, like, I didn't think this was going to happen. Even the games I remember seeing at Iowa State, he wasn't this type of quarterback.
Yeah.
So he's just become so much more confident in his time as a starter. And I think the 49ers are rewarding him for that by letting him make plays on his own.
Mm-hmm. I don't even think he needs a strong arm, honestly, because you have like 3 guys you could check down to.
Right.
Like, he has all the skills he needs to run that offense.
Yeah. This is what the West Coast offense was made for. It's made for quarterbacks who are very accurate, have very good pocket awareness, but don't necessarily have the strongest arm or the biggest build.
Mm-hmm.
Purdy is the perfect West Coast quarterback. We just forgot that because our thoughts of what West Coast quarterbacks had been in the past were like guys like Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
And Purdy is not Andrew Luck, but he's still a very, very good quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to do a quick prediction? I don't want to go too into the Super Bowl because we have Pro Bowl and there's not going to be much to talk about next week, but quick predictions for that. You could go first.
Yeah, I've been thinking, I have no idea. Maybe as we get closer to the week, we'll see with injury reports and stuff. I still need to wait and see how Chris Jones is doing because that's going to be a big one for the Chiefs. I'm trying to think. There wasn't really too many other injuries that I remember off the top of my head, but I know, look, the Chiefs had to play a very physical game. There's going to be guys that are going to be beat up. For the Niners, I want to see like how they handled this moment. They do have a lot of guys that were in that Super Bowl 5 years ago, but you want to see how Purdy handles the next 2 weeks, especially the next week as you lead up to media like press row and all that. This is, for as great as McCaffrey's been, this is his first Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right? Or was he there for the Panthers one?
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. Okay. So, yeah, you got another guy that doesn't really have too much experience. So I'm interested to see how that's handled by 2 of your offensive leaders. So I think as we get close to the game, it'll be a little bit more. Obviously, you don't get too much information from these guys, but I'll start to get a better sense, I think, next week. I'm expecting a very, very good game.
Yeah, they could run that same play on the Niners rookie kicker and like mess with his head pregame, and they might have a lot more success. So that'd be something to watch out for. I think the Chiefs are gonna pull out, unfortunately. They have experience on their side. They have a much better quarterback on their side. and they have a very prolific pop star in their box suite. So, yeah, it's very unfortunate. You want to quickly talk about NBA? I had an issue with Bucks hired Doc Rivers.
Here's what I will say. Adrian Griffin, first-year coach, took a really talented team, was doing pretty well with them. The biggest issue they had is they could not play defense. Since Doc's taken over, the defense, in my opinion, has looked so much better than it did at certain points. And when you look at the last couple of games where Griffin was the head coach, they led up 142 to the Kings in a win in overtime. They led up 121 to the Spurs. They lost to the Pacers, letting up 122 and 142. Like, this was an atrociously bad defense.
Okay.
And I think that was the biggest reason why. Because, yes, they were winning games, but I think the writing was on the wall that if you walked into the playoffs the way this defense was playing, you're not beating the Celtics. You're going to struggle against the Sixers as long as Embiid's healthy. The Knicks have been on a tear as well since they got OG Anunoby. So
the
there's
Cavs
a lot of
won
teams
like 8 straight too.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really hot teams right now. And the Bucks, in my opinion, got off to a really hot start and then lost 5 games just this month.
Yeah.
So I think the writing was starting to come to the wall that if they had kept Adrian Griffin, things probably wouldn't have worked out the way they wanted to. And for a lot of first-year head coaches, I say absolutely give them another chance. The Bucks are too good to let a first-year coach figure out this year and then hope to win next year.
Yeah,
you need to win this year.
I think Doc Rivers. I think Giannis is going to regret choosing Doc Rivers though, because from personal experience, he's not that guy.
And he's not. But here's the thing: if you're making an in-season acquisition for head coach, there's not too many other guys available right now that have the pedigree and the experience of Doc Rivers.
Okay.
And I get that there's the one championship and the amount of 3-1 losses that his teams have had when they're up in the playoffs. But I do think that if you're looking to make a change right now, Doc he has the best resume. Whether you like him or not, whether you think that his teams have failed on him or not, this is a guy the Bucks needed to go with. Because I don't think you're getting a really, really good, experienced head coach this late in the season and expecting to win.
Yeah, that is fair. I just don't know if he's a long-term solution there.
No, I agree with that. I think next year they're going to take a really good look at the other coaches that are going to be looking for jobs next year.
Yeah.
But Doc's name will certainly be out there for sure for the Bucks or maybe another team.
I'm looking. Miami Heat are on a 6-game losing streak.
Yeah.
That is the first time they've done that in a long time, too.
Yeah, and some of these teams, 2 losses back-to-back to the Raptors and Hawks, and then also losing the Magic, who've cooled off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not very good losses. The biggest thing that I've seen from the NBA recently, the amount of scoring that's happened from their star players.
Wait, what do you mean?
The fact that Embiid dropped 70 last week, you got Luka dropping 73.
Oh, yeah.
Like the amount of, we saw this last year too, but the fact that it all happened in 1 week is pretty crazy. And I don't think we're going to see something like that again for a very long time. Maybe we'll see it next year with the way that the league's going, but it was a really cool moment that I think we need to reflect on and just realize how amazing it is to see this many elite scorers. All from different positions.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you were in this chat when I said this, but I was talking to Jack, and I was kind of making the argument that I don't think scoring 70 kind of means as much anymore because, the defense is just not the same from when guys like Kobe did it, or I don't even know who else did it. Will. Actually, no, I'm not going to use Wilt as an example. But when Kobe did it, and, the eras like that. However, I said, I think it's going to happen a couple more times this season, and then I think it's going to be a regular thing. In the argument, I said it could happen 5 more times. I'm going to retract that and say 2 more times this season. And then I think you're going to see it multiple times every year moving forward.
Do you think someone will break 100 again?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have a couple candidates who I think would do it. I think Luka is probably the front runner.
Yeah.
Embiid could get close. I think Anthony Edwards could get up there too.
Yeah. The biggest issue with Embiid, And when Wilt scored his 100, he played all 48 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time Embiid's come close to playing 45 in a regular season game.
Oh no. And how many minutes did Luka play?
Luka played. That's a good question because I don't remember off the top of my head
I'm gonna look.
how many.
I got it.
That's a good question. I'm pulling it up right here. So he played. So when he scored 73, he played 45.
Okay. Yeah, he's a guy
So-
that could do that on a
Yeah.
nightly basis.
Yeah, and the thing is, he also had 7 assists. So if
Mhm.
he really wanted to be selfish, he could have not had any assists and just tried going for the record.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying he definitely would have gotten it, but if you play 3 more minutes, no assists, and just go for scoring, like you've got a really good chance at coming close to breaking it at least.
Yeah. What's it? I think Trey could get up there too, honestly. Not 100, but I think he could get around 70. I could see Booker
Yeah.
doing it again. I could see
Yeah.
Giannis doing it if Dame's out. There's a lot of guys, honestly. I don't think
Yeah.
Shea's there yet, maybe in a few years.
The issue that I have with the smaller point guards trying to go for 100, and the reason why I don't think we see it that often is that a lot of these guys like live and die by the 3,
Mhm.
and there's just certain games where it doesn't fall, or late in the games when you get tired and it doesn't fall. I feel like for guys like Embiid and Luka, when they get tired and that shot's just not falling for them, they can work their way into the paint.
Oh yeah.
And because the paint isn't that sealed off area anymore that it used to be, it's a little bit easier to score in that area.
A little bit.
Well, okay. Well, yeah, compared to the 90s, it's a lot easier to score in the paint. Where even with how easy it is to score, it's really hard to be a smaller point guard working your way into the paint, trying to shoot over big guys every single time.
Oh yeah.
So I think that puts them at a slight disadvantage. Now, again, you could have a game where you hit 23s and then get to the foul line as well.
Mhm.
I just feel like that it's less likely for that to happen than it is for a bigger guy to work inside the paint, also get free throws and be able to shoot threes. So that's why I think guys like Luka, and again, probably not Embiid. I just don't think he plays the minutes.
Yeah, no,
So I
I'm
think guys
reconsidering
like-
my answer. I think he
Yeah.
could get near 70 or 80 again, though.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think you'll see guys like Luka or Buck, someone in that small forward to power forward, maybe center as well type range,
Mhm.
to be able to do that.
I'm looking at Embiid's free throw numbers too. Like, that is insane. He shoots 88.3%,
Yeah,
higher than Luka, higher than Booker, Durant,
yeah, he's
D-Mitch,
one of
De'Aaron.
the best free throw shooting centers that I've ever seen.
The
And I
best,
know that a
maybe?
lot of what's that?
The best, maybe?
There's a possibility that he is the best. And I get that he gets a lot of crap because he works his way to get fouls, but he could be like Shaq,
Yeah.
where he works to get a foul or gets fouled every time because he's so big and then can't shoot, so it doesn't matter anyway.
I get the feeling that if Shaq made his free throws, like, no one would even, like,
Oh,
knock
yeah.
him for
He
it.
would have been a top 5 player in NBA history
Yeah.
easily
Hmm.
if he had been able to make free throws, but he couldn't. So it didn't like that part of his game he should have worked on, and I think he sort of admits that now a little bit. But as he said, he was the best player, best center in that time period.
Yeah.
He was winning championships. He didn't have to work on his game because he didn't feel the need to be the best.
Hmm.
He didn't have, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. Look, he still won 4 championships, still made it to plenty of other championships, but he just doesn't have that drive that Kobe had,
Yeah.
that Jordan had. And you don't have to be a great player to have that drive, but if you want to be considered the best of all time or one of the best of all time,
you need
have
it.
to have it. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's why, Shaq easily could have been a top 5 player, but he just didn't work on that one part of the game, of his game. And it comes back to bite him when it comes to these debates by guys like us
Yeah.
aren't even close to stepping onto an NBA court, by the way. But that's a whole
No.
different conversation.
No. Do you have anything else?
Only thing that I want to add, we're about a month away from March Madness. The Big East is just crazy right now. You've got so many great teams. Seton Hall is playing really well. You got UConn that's also playing well. Villanova is still up there. But yeah, the top 3 teams in the Big East right now is UConn, who has only 2 losses. Creighton has 5. Marquette only has 5. Seton is 6-4 now, so they're starting to teeter off a bit. But those 4 or 5 teams, if you include St. John's as well, who's 13-7, and Providence, who's 14-6, we could easily see 4 to 6 teams from the Big East in the tournament. And that's not including Villanova, who for a while was the predominant team in that conference.
Mm-hmm. This is a one-way conversation. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I feel that. There's also one other thing I want to talk about because it's just not getting enough attention. I love it. So we've talked about in this podcast before the Sun Belt Conference and how great they are in football. Well, they have App State, who's 8-1 in conference play and 17-4 overall, and then James Madison's 18-3. So not only have they turned into a really good football conference, they could also have 2 basketball teams participate in March Madness, which I don't remember the Sun Belt ever having good basketball teams like this.
Yeah, no, I don't know what they're putting in the water at JMU.
They've always had really good athletics. You're just finally starting to see them on prime time. Plus, now with football moving up to FBS, they're getting more money, which means more ability to recruit, better facilities equals better players.
Yep.
So, again, they always had really good athletics. Now it's just getting even better, and I'm glad that the American public, the wide American public, is able to see it, and not just really niche college football and college basketball fans.
Gotcha. I think that'll do it for this week, so we'll catch you guys next week. The Pro Bowl's going to be on, so we're just going to do a lot of predictions and forget the Pro Bowl's on. All right, see you guys.